Impact. 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 That's a pretty good amount of impacts, my friends. It's not too bad. Looks like it's fairly consistent when the wind dies off. That's nice to know. I wish that happened during the review. After initial zeroing at 50 yards, I went to 100 with a few different loads to see what would happen. Disregard these rimfire impacts down here. I started off with some 75 grain to see what it would do. It looks like it has a different point of impact, but the height is about right because I was aiming down here in the center. At 100 yards, I should be about 1.7 inches high from the center of where I'm aiming. I did make a correction again with match ammo. Went over here. That's a nice 0.65 5-shot group. And from the center, I'm right there. I'm about 1.5, 1.6 inches high, which is what I should be. Another group, this is with penetrators. I was curious what penetrators would do. So aiming here on the corner, and it's right where it should be. It's actually exactly where it should be. It's about 1.7 right there. So groups wise, you can still shoot nice tight groups. I mean, that's really not too bad. A 0.6 inch group has some fair consistency, small enough to hit varmints with. It's just going to be a matter of zeroing for the particular ammo that you want to match up with that reticle. For me, I'll probably stick to 75 grainers at longer distances as long as they match up with the reticle. I'm going to go test that in a second, but otherwise, so a lot of the 62 grainer stuff is still printing okay. If it can do an inch, it can probably do okay at distance. I just know that those 75 grainers fly a lot better. Let's go over to some further distance, do some confirmations, and see what we can do with the 1 to 8 from Hi-Lux. Before we get out to distance, let's do a little 200 yard. It's actually a mite further than 200. Just a little bit further. It's 230 yards. Up to that steel. Same ammo as before. I've got a spotter. That should give you some ability to see what's happening downrange. Here we go. Looks pretty zeroed up, so 200 is good to go. Probably move back to 300 now and we'll just start playing around more at 300. That was on 4 power. Whoops. Technically the reticle is only true, you know, generally on 8 power. Let me do that again. Okay, so on the spinner, looks like I needed to hold just a little bit to the right. It's not very windy, it's a little bit of wind. I needed to hold like, I don't know, favoring right edge to make that impact. So with that ammo, it might be hitting just a little bit left. That's fine, I can work with that. Let's move to 330 yards. Looking at the next line down, same ammo all the way through. see what we can do at 330 yards. Because it's an extra 30 yards on there, I think I have to aim just a tinge bit higher than I normally would. I think my velocities are right in there, but we'll find out. So this is, again, using the Hi-Lux CMR8. It's a great image. It's a really nice eye box. Colors look pretty good. It's actually a pretty decent piece of glass, especially on an overcast day. And actually, I'm gonna go for that clay pigeon first and see where it lands. All right, so that's a cold bore at 330 on the clay. And all I did is favor the top edge a little bit to the right, a little bit top edge, but that's because of the wind blowing right to left. Bouncing off my hat. All right. Okay, I think that gives me some information. Let's go up to the silhouette. I'm not using a scope level. Normally I do. Kind of doing this one old school. Well, here's what I'm gonna do. Sounds like some strong fog is coming in on a cold front. It's gonna be too foggy to see much in a little bit. So instead of doing 500, we'll skip 500. We'll go right to 6. And 6 is just gonna accentuate if there were any differences that I would find at 500 concerning holdover and actual values in those subtensions. 600 will just accentuate that, and I'll be able to kind of reverse engineer that and kind of see how it goes. If 6 lines up pretty good, which I'll be at 625 technically, if that lines up pretty good, I'm fairly confident that 500 will be good to go, and I will test that on another day. For today, let's go to 625. I'll hold probably towards the top of the target, and at the top of the target, the little bit of extra drop I would get from that 25 yards, it should be minuscule, but it'll be a little something, and it should line up probably in the center mass of that target still. A couple of shout outs as I'm walking back, set up my rifle. Anarchy Outdoors, thank you to Anarchy for being a great channel supporter. They do send stuff out to the channel. I review everything because I actually use it on my rifles. Anarchy can help upgrade your rifles, get things competition ready, hunting ready, just to a more pristine or prestigious level for actual function and aesthetic. I think they're great. And also, I can't leave this out. Recently, I've been partnering with Tour Knives. This is a phenomenal blade. I'm so surprised that I like it. To be honest with you, it's not the style that I typically go for, but I looked at it online for a while and was like, man, I bet you that's a pretty good knife. And I don't do a lot of the strictly tactical speaking blades, so this one has 2 functions. It's kind of a utility knife, a little bit tactical. It's a great plate carrier style blade, duty blade, and I've been EDCing it, and I think it's an awesome EDC blade. Nice and robust. It is an M4, and it's made by Tour Knives, which is synonymous with quality, high capability, and I found that this one is insanely sharp, very wicked sharp, with a great point to it. Highly recommended. I got a video coming out on this soon. Looking at about 625, should be able to see, I think you should be able to see, oh man, hopefully this thing doesn't shake too much when I shoot. I think you'll be able to see the green light from the impact. I've got an indicator light on there from Caldwell. see what happens. I am taking that 600-yard line, that last line, and I'm putting it about the neckline on the target because I'm just a tad bit further than 600 yards. And with velocity information, it probably makes sense for me to just be a little higher. 8 power, we're recording with the CMR, here we go. That was low. Let's put it on the head. Right. Well, I'll be darned. I did not think that that ammo would change at this distance. I don't think it has anything to do with the can. Let's switch over to some of the other ammo. We'll try some penetrators. We'll try some other match ammo, maybe a little bit better quality ammo. Right now, from what I'm seeing down there, those are not looking too good with this particular ammo. Has a little bit more to do with the rifle rather than ballistics for the reticle. I'll send 2 more. It is slightly windy, but it shouldn't be thrown around that much. Okay, so I'm about a half silhouette low. I'm going to hold it up a little higher. There's an impact. 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 So I'm not sure what was going on with my standard deviation there for a moment. The impacts that I made were about a full silhouette high from what I was holding before, you know, quite a bit higher. And let's just switch right over. Barrel's still hot, but we'll switch over to some better quality ammo. It's this 73 grain Burger. Might be a touch faster than what I was just shooting. Let's go ahead and hit record. So we're recording again with some 73 grain Burger. Let's see where these wind up. Looked like an impact. Let's send another. Little low. Impact right at the base. Just left. Okay, windage is getting me a little bit. Let's hold just right, favoring right. Okay, I believe that was an impact. Might not have been enough to trigger my target hit indicator, but we'll find out in the footage afterwards. All right, I gave the barrel a long time to cool down, try to get back to at least air temperature. Did get it pretty warm there. Now I'm going to shoot a little bit faster ammo because obviously my velocities are not catching up, which doesn't surprise me. I was a little bit low closer, and I think I've been just shooting ammo that was slightly too slow compared to what this was ballistically calibrated for. So shooting a little faster ammo, this should get me, you know, more impacts. We'll see with this wind. Forgive the windage stuff. Be more concerned about elevation. That's practically speaking what I'm testing right now. And then also my own wind calls. We'll see. I'm looking at 7 to 8 mile an hour winds going left to right now. And about 5 minutes ago, they were going right to left. So do what I can. It's just a little bit low. It's not too low. I am going to have to hold 3 targets left because of that wind. It's getting it's getting blustery. Let's see what happens here. I'll hold 3 targets left and just a little bit higher. Maybe if I hold towards the neck, we'll be just fine. Impact. Impact. Just right. Just left. Yep, playing around with the wind a little bit, but definitely more consistent with that. So it was a velocity issue. It's not a reticle issue. I'm pretty confident. One thing that I can tell you is at 625 yards, I'm seeing those impacts, those misses. I can tell which side the target is being impacted on because I can see the target move. The one thing I'll say that is going to get tricky here is you have a fixed parallax with a scope, so you're not going to get it quite as clear as you would with a big monster scope. But this weighs almost nothing. It's very light. My rifle weighs next to nothing right now, and glass clarity is still really good. I'm picking at something just so you have some comparison of what would it be like if I had a 6-36. Well, I would get it razor sharp, and I would shoot with higher magnification, more than likely off a bench. But with a 1-8, you can still be pretty effective. And actually, I would say further than this, you could be pretty effective. Just kind of depends on your data. Taking a look at some of the features, I'll start on the back. You do have a flip-up cap that's plastic. I'm going to take it off, as well as the front cap. So 2 plastic caps. Underneath, you have your fast focus diopter adjustment. It has a nice level of resistance to it. It's not so light in effort that it's going to accidentally move if you twist your cap around. I think it's actually going to stay put pretty good, but it's not so firm that in the wintertime I won't be able to manipulate this. It still seems to move pretty good, and it's got a nice meat tenderizer texture on there. I actually mean that in an endearing way. I am happy to see that it's got this texture on there. This is not a spot that has to be smooth. Maybe the part that you would get rookie bite on if your eye touches this somehow, or newbie touches this with a 308. That should be smooth, but the top of it, the actual texture, that should be aggressive, and it is nicely aggressive. It's actually kind of a refined feel. I like it. Moving on from there, you can see that the footprint is not enormous. The eyepiece is appropriate. I think this is a nice size eyepiece. I've seen some that are a little bit longer. It just feels a little awkward on an LPVO. I've seen some that are very, very short, and then I end up with eye box issues. This one has a good eye relief, something like 3.8 inches. Sounds pretty accurate to me. From the manual, I can say that's about what I found when measuring it myself. I go ahead and put my eye up, and then I have somebody help me measure to my eye right around 3.5 inches, something like that. Seems consistent through the range, and the eye box is not picky. Moving up 1 power to 8 power, and in order to set that 1 power so that your 1 power appears to be truest, that's going to have a little bit to do with your diopter setting. Do some research on that, or go watch the Hi-Lux video on that. They talk about how to get your 1x to be as true as possible in the process of actually setting your diopter. I think it was a really great video. They did a good job. From 1 to 8 power, that sweep doesn't feel too bad on this. It has a similar aggressive texture. It's not going to hurt your hands, but it'll give you something to hold on to. I can move it freely without needing this magnification assist lever. But on LPVOs and a lot of optics actually, especially gas guns, I want that. I want the ability to flip it back and forth quickly and a little leverage just in case it's cold out, my hands are a little bit numb, and I need to move it over. This is a second focal plane, and so 0 on 8x when you do. The nub, the cattail, or the magnification assist lever is removable. If this was going to get in the way on a bolt action or whatever platform you're going to run this on, I know a lot of us use LPVOs on bolt actions nowadays, that is removable, not an issue. If you're trying to keep your gun lower profile, you know you're just going to hunt on 5.5 power all the time and you just don't want that on there, sure, you can remove that, not a problem. There's still a little bit of pyramiding on this and it moves freely. Moving on from there, you do have your elevation and windage. I'll take off the elevation, has that same texture on there. And these are half MOA clicks. They are audible, they're not like super tactile because this isn't meant to be run with an open turret. It's a closed turret, a cap turret for a reason. But with half MOA clicks, I find that this is really easy to zero quickly. It works really well, and if I shoot at some distance and I need to give myself a little bit more elevation, I trust these to reliably track. When I was looking through my optic zeroing this, it did appear to track and go in the right direction, at the right intervals. I like half MOA when it comes to MOA optics in general. I'm not a huge fan of quarter MOA for LPVOs. I just think it adds too much work. And generally, you can get it done with a half MOA adjustment. So well done to Hi-Lux on selecting that for a configuration. From there, looking at the stepless illumination, you're going to go up to 5, and then you have off, and then 6, 7, 8, 9, and max. And I'm going to tell you, this guy gets bright. I mean really, really bright. So kind of a different illumination knob than you've probably seen in the past. Here's your battery housing. It's got a nice texture to it. It's very tactile and clicky. Super, super tactile. It feels good. There's not a bunch of backlash in these, nor in the turrets. The turrets actually feel pretty good. No backlash, no slop. Everything on here for dials and knobs seems to be robust and built well. But the max power brightness, yeah, that's daylight bright. I think they did a great job with this illumination in particular. When it comes to LPVOs, I know a lot of guys want to run this on 1 power. They want it to be as close to a true 1 power as possible. And then so many people want max illumination. That's something very bright where it still works even when they have their weapon light on or they're shooting in the desert in a sunny condition. For me, that would be the snow. The snow reflects a lot, and I occasionally need something that can contrast well, and a really bright fiber illumination or anything even like that is going to work well. This works super, super well. Well done to Hi-Lux on that feature as well. It actually performs probably way above its price point, in my opinion. Do something kind of funky here with my phone, but just to show you. High relief is really easy. Usually I can't do this with my phone, but the high relief is pretty good. Man, does that thing get bright. It's really nice, guys. Also gives you a little bit of shot of the reticle. Let's fix my phone. Okay, here's a little shot of the reticle. Reticle is fairly simplistic, and that's a good thing in an LPVO like this. Has those holdovers. We're going to put those to the test. So can a 1:8 be effective at this distance? Absolutely. You need to input good data. You need to input good ammo, feed your rifle well, and get the right velocities. And that was my error going into this, but that's something you'll play around with a little bit for your location, your caliber, whatever you're optimizing for this reticle, because it needs to match up with that in order to make sense. And so get the ammo that's going to shoot the right velocity, and it's going to be consistent, and hopefully you can do at least this well. I actually think on a less windy day, I think most of these would be landing in there. I can tell where I'm hitting, where I'm missing. I can see impacts left and right. I can see the dust cloud. I can actually see little splash in the weeds with an 8 power. It's a pretty good piece of glass. No, it doesn't have a huge objective bell, but even in the shadows and the dark spots, it's a fairly bright image for an LPVO. If you need a truly bright image, look at some of Hi-Lux's bigger optics. They have quite a few. I've reviewed some on my channel in the past. When it comes to a fighting rifle, defensive rifle, maybe a duty rifle, that sort of thing, a 1:8 gives you so much power to identify targets, to see your hits and misses downrange, and to use that reticle again with those subtensions with the correct ammo that's at the velocity that it needs to be. Now you can do quick holds, really quick holds. Now that I know where this is at, I feel like if I was to go back to the beginning from 100 out to 625 yards, I would be really fast, really, really fast, because I kind of got an idea of what it needs to do. Make sure you get that initial zero really tight, really true for 50 yards, 200 yards. I found that my zero was just compromised by a little bit when I went back and checked it. A little bit. It was about a ½ inch off. So I went back and corrected that and made sure I shot a tiny 5-shot group. And when that was true, I found that moving out a little further, it was probably more consistent. And the next problem I ran into was, again, not based on the scope or the reticle. It was based off the velocities. My input was not correct. So that's how you need to self-diagnose what's going on there. I'm sure they did the math right. It was built around a certain rifle, a certain situation, a certain velocity and atmospherics and all that. It's never going to be exactly perfect, but it's probably going to be really close to true if you input the correct ammo. So really heavy, slow ammo, yeah, it's going to give you a lot more drop and you're not going to be quite there. Super fast, light ammo like 50 grainers, it's not going to work either. You're going to need to stay more in that defensive ammo. 62 to 69 grain stuff is going to be closer for this. If you're looking at 308, that's probably another application. I have to throw this on an AR-10 and see what I think of that. With the 5.56, it's very doable. Yes, BDCs can still work, and they can work well. As long as you practice, you go out and get that real-world information, and then you can have confidence to be very fast. I would argue faster than you would with a normal MIL or MOA reticle even. All right, that's all I have for you guys today for this first initial video. I will have more videos in the future. Do I recommend it? Yes. I think if you're into competition shooting and you're willing to do some of the work just to double check your data and do everything I described in this video, pretty much exactly what I did in this video, then yes, I think this could be a great competition scope, especially if you're into second focal planes and cap turrets. You don't need to dial on stuff for tactical matches, and you're good with holdovers, larger size targets like 2/3 size IDPAs. Yeah, this could be a great scope for that. In fact, it is a great scope for that. The illumination is so bright. It is so good. If you're doing any sort of hunting, maybe night vision setups with clip-ons, yeah. Actually, I think it's a great scope for that. Nice low profile with the turrets. If you're an MOA shooter in general and you do plan to take those off and monkey around with it, that's another group. People who like MOA. This is an MOA-based scope. If you're somebody who's just looking for a defensive home use rifle because of that illumination, I actually would say yes. I think this could be great. Even if you don't care about the reticle, if that's not useful to you, this has 1 to 8 power. The reticle is going to stay the same size, and you're going to have a very accentuated hot center dot that is just bright red. So this has a lot to offer those two groups especially. Hunters, yeah, I think there's a way you could use this for hunting. It's not exactly optimized for that. It's not created for that. It's an LPVO in the first place. Hi-Lux probably has some other optics you might be more interested in. I would say if you're going to shoot further and more precisely than what I'm doing, Hi-Lux has other options. If you're going to shoot fairly close, they have red dots. In fact, that's the next thing I'm going to show on my channel. So if you're a little bit more interested in one of those two, I'm going to link a video here. And then I also have another video coming up soon on their red dot, which is very, very nice. High quality enclosed red dot, has a metal cage available, lots of cool things. So for those of you who are looking for a duty optic, competition-based optic, maybe a little bit of light hunting, varminting, plinking, just doing what I'm doing, having some fun at the range, this will fit a lot of people's budgets. It's a great piece of glass. Image is nice, and it has a lot of function as long as you're willing to put in a little bit of work.